Okay, tonight on the workbench we've got a gaming PC from a local lad. It's not a particularly high-end machine. It was built to a pretty moderate budget back in the day, but it is quite modern. He's only had it less than a year. It was built with a Ryzen 2700X, I think. Um, Anyway, and he has had a little bit of trouble with it. I think one of the downsides is that it was spec'd up. We were on such a tight budget, it was spec'd up with a budget mainboard. And unfortunately, budget mainboard's not ideal for this sort of gaming system. You can probably see on the top cam, it's a very small M80X mainboard with a very large ATI graphics card in. As I say, most of the spec for this was given to me by the lad and we just made it work. It certainly could do with some more hardware in it. But anyway, the point being is that he has recently had a birthday. Lucky boy. And he has received one of these. Ooh, so much light. There we go. ROG Strict B450F Gaming. So, a pretty high quality mainboard. I do have some concerns about. It says Ryzen 2000 ready on it, so I suppose that's got to be good. I wasn't 100% sure about the compatibility range on these boards. Let's have a look what we've got in the box. Okay, so let's open it up. Take a look at this lovely toy. Now, as you can see, like with most ROG Strix type boards, you've got all the features you're really ever going to need. You've got 4 DDR slots, load of extra SATAs. What have we got? 6 on there. 3 PCI Express. You can probably only really make use of the top 2 lanes. I haven't looked up the spec to see whether they're all running times 16. They won't be, I'd imagine. I'd imagine it's 16.8 and probably 4. You've got an M2 slot here, although I'm not entirely sure he's got M2. I think maybe. I can't remember. It's been so long. And then one of the nice things about these no I/O plates built into the main board. That takes a step out that I always kind of hate doing and cut my fingers and all that crap. So, right, what we're going to do is I'd like to take you guys through a motherboard swap because why not? We're here. We've got the cameras in place. You've got a board, you want to swap the motherboard, maybe you've had a failure. The most common reason to swap a motherboard out is somebody's told you. You'd be amazed how much resistance I hear when you tell somebody that they should try swapping the motherboard. It's almost like you've just told them to swap, the entire engine and gearbox out of a car. It really isn't that difficult a job. It takes about half an hour. Hopefully this video will be half an hour. Such is my track record. And we'll, with any luck, this guy will end up with a better system. I think it's an interesting choice to go for the motherboard, regardless of the fact that I can totally get behind the idea that we cheaped out on this board when we built the machine. But even so, it wouldn't have been my go-to for straight performance, but we'll see. His choice, his money. Just gotta right. So what I've done here is I want to get the GPU out first. In order to get the GPU out, there's 2 main issues. You've got screws on the side by the rear I/O plate, and then you've got a latch at the very back of the socket. If we come back to, here we go, the new board, you see these allow it to kick out. Now on cheaper boards, it'll just be a little piece of plastic. So we're probably looking to just press down a little bit of plastic at the back. And the really good news is I've part X'd this board for a few quid for him, save him some cash. So if we break it, it's our problem, as long as we don't break the new one going in. Anyway, here is the graphics card. What have we got? 5900 XT, I guess. Last gen Radeon. I actually quite like this card. It just doesn't really compete with Nvidia's stuff, but costs less. Key. Now then, after that we're going to just, so we've taken out the main board, sorry, the GPU, and then you're just going to look at the other connectors. Now, we've got two SATA down the bottom. We're just going to pop those out, leave those in the case. Well, I mean, we're going to leave everything in the case. This is going to be your front panel. Now, the thing is with a front panel is front panels are easy. They scare everybody who doesn't build PCs all the time. You've got a 2-pin connector for the power button, 2-pin connector for the reset button. These go by you got these. There we go. You got 2 rows of pins, and you put sort of on the top row, if you want to look at it that way, you'll have in most cases the power switch and then the reset button below, and then the power light and the hard drive LED below. But you'll have a little diagram. It's down here. I'll never get it on camera, but on the board printed, it will tell you, you know, HD LED for hard drive LED, P LED for power, and the same for the switches. So it really isn't difficult, and you can't break anything by putting things in the wrong place. What will happen is it won't turn on, or the LEDs won't work as easy, and then just swap them around. So anyway, we'll get rid of that. Get rid of the SATAs. This looks like USB 3, and it does not want to come out. USB 3s don't have a latch. No, didn't think so. Anyway, that didn't want to come out. And then, what is that? USB regular, and then HD audio hidden all the way over in the corner like normal. So that is actually, we got a front panel fan plugged in there, and the fan at the back. No, that's the CPU fan. We don't really need to unplug that at this point. And that's it. I'm going to actually just pop the RAM out since we are changing the main board. Let's just pop that out and put it to the side. Now then, that's really all we have to do as far as disconnecting of things. Then there's going to be a multitude of screws around the main board. They're pretty obvious. They're almost always obvious to the eye. They're very rarely concealed. And they're all going to be the same size and shape and everything else. So there's literally nothing to do in this. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything particularly careful. I'm not using an anti-static wristband, which is, I've never used an anti-static wristband. You know, I've dropped the screwdriver in there. Oh my god, you know, this isn't something that requires a spectacular amount of competence. I mean, I'd say it probably helps that I have, again, spare parts, which is key, because being able to fix something if you do happen to make an oopsie is important. But you know, you don't need to be any kind of genius to take the mainboard out of a PC. You don't even need to be smart. You could be a bit fucking special and still manage it successfully. So there we go. That's the mainboard out of the PC. Big deal. Not a big problem. Easy. Now the other things we've got to do is take the CPU out of here and reuse the cooler, because we don't have any of that new. It would have been a very nice time to upgrade this lad to an AIO water cooler or something, but I mean, what can you do? Mummy and Daddy's money will only go so far. Or maybe it was his money. He was actually, to be fair to the lad, he was, I think, working for a living last I spoke to his parents, so, you know, while doing school as well, so that's pretty good. I certainly remember saving up for a Voodoo 2 card by working in my parents' hotel for years, for months as a kid. In fact, some of my fondest memories was saving up to buy PC hardware, you know, when you couldn't just put it on a credit card like you do now. Back then it was waiting and waiting. I remember spending an entire summer pretty much saving up for a 6800 Ultra. It actually resulted in me having a web handle that I still have to this day of Ultra Extreme, because I bought in fact, I'm not sure if I ever bought the Ultra Extreme. I think I I couldn't afford it, and I bought the Ultra only. Screwdriver's hurting my hands because I'm a big girl. Yeah, I took the name Ultra Extreme and used it as a web handle, and I've confounded people ever since. Oof, right. Now then, one of the things I do hate about doing motherboard swaps is the having to do the thermal grease. It's never been my favourite part of refurbishing computers, thermal grease. Horrible stuff. But again, bit of that WD-40 cleaner on it. And hey, it's just occurred to me, this is the first Ryzen rebuild I've ever done. I've built brand new Ryzen systems, but I have never removed a Ryzen CPU from its socket. So hopefully I'll figure out how to do it, otherwise, oh no, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh shoot, okay, so this is our backplate. The actual new motherboard will have its own backplate actually. These were secured in by Ryzen's come with these stupid clips that they never use. I guess they were for some old style cooler before they brought out these nicer high-end coolers that come with modern Ryzen's. So when you undo the bolts, you have this plate that can fall away. It's a bit annoying, but kind of nice to have a spare. I'm going to leave the CPU in there until I've done a bit of prep work on the new board. So let's get the new board up here. I do like using the box as just a good base for this. I'm obviously, if I wasn't doing this on camera, I'd be doing this on a whole different bench somewhere else. But hey, you guys get to watch, and you get to make everything harder for me, because I've got to do it in a weird way. Isn't that great? Don't you just love it? Oh man. And we're good. And we're good. This board has two lovely NVMe slots. You got one here and one here. Neither of them are cooled though, which is odd for a gaming board if you ask me. But yeah, whatever. So you pop up, in case anybody hasn't ever seen a lever CPU, you don't really have it so much these days, very old style thing. You just lever the CPU up, that'll allow the new one to drop in. So then this is the bit I'm worried about, because if I drop the CPU trying to do it like this, it'll break, and then I'll have to buy him a new CPU. Okay, so you unlatch it, unlock it, grip the sides, and there we go. And the CPU is only really vulnerable when it's in this state. You've got a triangle on one corner of the CPU, and you'll have a triangle on one corner of the board. And if you're not sure, there's always an angle, a right angle cutout where the triangle goes. And really, that's the only time the system is vulnerable, because you could bend a pin there. And if you're dealing with a £600, Ryzen 9 or something, that's a little bit on the scary side. Now, in the words of that guy of Tronics Fix, I'm about to put the absolutely perfect amount of thermal grease on here, okay? So don't let anyone tell you otherwise, right? That amount is the best amount of thermal grease. I'm actually kind of lucky because I don't think you can even see how much thermal grease I just put on, but that is the perfect amount. There's no question, no denying it. It's just the truth. Can't hide from the truth. I mean, science, boys, science. And I find it quite handy with these coolers just to make sure that you've actually popped them down so that they sit in the holes, because it's very frustrating if they're off alignment. Also, bear in mind, the AMD, you can actually turn this, but, well, you can reseat it, but the AMD is almost always better being to the left. Unless I'm really missing something, because I've never really watched anyone else do this, and maybe I'm just missing a really obvious way, but it's not a square, so you have to you have to align it either with the AMD on the left or the AMD on the right, not at the top. I don't know why. Like I said, if I'm missing something really stupid, please internet tell me. And yeah, if you have it the other side, it tends to block the RAM. So okay, and we've managed to get the CPU in there without breaking the computer. It's remarkable. You know, you wouldn't think it'd be possible, not for mere mortals, to do this kind of thing. Crazy, right? What are we going to go with? Let's go with A1. So again, if you're running memory in dual channel and you're using a nice premium board like this, make sure that you put your memory in the correct channels. So it's either 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. In most boards, there's no difference between the two. There are some boards that will have a configuration difference between the two, and you might need to change your speeds or whatever. Now, we're likely to have issues on this board because it's more fancy. We've got optional CPU headers, we've got AIO headers. We've now upgraded to an was it an 8-pin before? Yeah, we got an 8-pin 12-volt CPU power. It's because of all the overclocking. It's going to put a lot more strain on this PSU, so let's hope the PSU is up to it, because that was not a premium part either, really. But yeah, all in all, board looks good. RAM and CPU's installed, and that's really all you need. Now, the other thing that's going to be different now is that because we've moved from an M-ATX to a full ATX, yeah, looks like this is just about going to fit. We're going to need to move the standoffs. Okay, now standoffs, lovely little things. Let me just grab some long nose pliers. Standoffs hold the board up off the base, you know, to keep anything from contacting the back of the board, because the back of the board obviously has a lot of metal contacts that you wouldn't want to be shorted. So this keeps the board hovering on nice earthed points. Now, the thing is, when you change to a big old boy like this, you've now got to put standoffs, like these little guys, little brass thingies usually. You've got to put those into the holes that correspond with the holes in the new board. So it's normally fairly obvious, because you're always going to have the, like, I think the top 4. So I'm going to show you this on the camera. On here, there's going to be one near the top of the IO, one right below the IO, and then one sort of midway along, which would have been the back one on the smaller board, and again down by the middle. And then at the bottom, you're going to have another 3 in a line, and 3 in the line there. It really is just a case that you've got these extra ones further back in the case. And also, it's actually, I mean, this would be too late if it wasn't the case, but remember to check before you upgrade a motherboard that the board you're buying to, you know, that you're upgrading to a board that's actually going to fit your case, because unlike people like me who buy ridiculously high-end cases that cost more than most entire computers, my case was literally 400 and something pounds. If you're buying just a regular off-the-shelf ATX case, there's no guarantee it will take a great. Okay, now, like any good computer technician, I have put the standoffs in my mouth. Oh man, this one's going to drive me mad. The thing is, this case is not an expensive case. And the problem with not expensive cases is that things like the standoff screws can be super duper fiddly. Hey! Oh my god, I sound like Linus. Somebody give me Linus money though. Hey, is that what you gotta do? And then say, these standoffs are really standoffish, unlike I fix it, who sends you stuff without even asking. Yeah, no, let's not comment on my segues. That's why Linus gets the big bucks, let's be honest. Okay, so the other problem we've now got, I'm going to put this board over here for a second while we sort the case out. Now, because I did such a beautiful job wiring this lovely case. Oh, I just tipped it up with all those screws on, didn't I? Hey, look at that, boys. It's fine. Just fine. Yeah, I'm going to have to take these off because I'm going to need to move the case around. Yeah, because I did such a absolutely bang-up job of building this, it means that I tucked all the wires away and all the SATAs and everything behind. And I threaded them through nicely, but I threaded them through for a micro ATX, not a full-size ATX, so that one needs to go through there. Might actually be it. Might be just fine, because nothing else comes through there. That does. Where's the front panel on this? See, the front panel's down here, so the fact that that comes through there, that's actually fine. I'm just going to sit the board on top of it. Okay, so yeah, that'll do. So let's knock the old I/O in, because I've been lazy. Old I/O, not as pretty. And, you know, for anybody who thinks that this is, you know, whatever, being casual, like, I'm not casual about this at all. You know, this kid's trusting me to sort his computer out, and not only that, because I'm a business, if I break this, or you know, do anything wrong, it's my problem. It's my liability. This isn't just like, oh, this is, you know, he's playing with his fancy new toy. You know, I'm not playing with my fancy new toy. I'm playing with somebody else's new toy. And not only playing with somebody else's new toy, you know, I'm in an hour in, oh, do I build myself a second Ryzen rig just for streaming because I can? You know, this kid's probably, you know, he's had to wait till his birthday to get a goddamn motherboard. You know, if I break this, you know, I'm buying him a new computer. So I'm not casual about this at all. I've just done it a lot. And I know what is and isn't safe to do. And I know exactly what I'm doing, even though it doesn't look like it. I know, it's a skill that I have on show in these videos of convincing people that I know what I'm doing, whilst looking like I have no idea what I'm doing. That's not something you get overnight, ladies and gentlemen. That is something that is created through years of pretending you're good at things. So, right, we're going to just grab some extra screws. Because annoyingly, case screws come with cases, not with motherboards. And that's what these are. So, again, it's another thing where you've got to feel sorry for people who don't do this for a living or as a serious hobby. Because you're just not going to have these screws around, are you? And where are you going to get flanged case screws from? You know? Now then, here's where we got to figure things out a little bit. Oh, I might need to relocate. Sorry, I'm going to be totally in the way. At least we got the second cam now. I might need to relocate a few things because The SATAs are now going over here, and this isn't going to look tidy. That's okay. I think USB and front panel audio is still okay. Now, you can always tell the difference between USB has one corner blocked off, okay? So that's how you know a USB socket. Then front panel audio, front panel audio connectors have a have like one missing in the 8, and that makes them kind of easy. And I mean, all of that, you know, it looks a little bit tricky, but you know why? Because, you know, I'm having to do it on camera, guys. I'm having to do it on camera. Nothing fits. I can't see. So all I'm doing now is I'm popping out the SATA cables because they don't make sense anymore where they are. I'm hoping I don't have to redo any of this patching. I don't think so. Looks alright. But we got to feed all of this through somewhere else. I think actually the USB needs to go higher. I might have to cut some tie wraps. Great. And the SATAs need to go through by here. You don't really have to worry too much what everything looks like round the back. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to get them into a position where I could show you this from on top, just in case you can actually see this. Again, my camera stopped recording, which makes it look terrible. That's better. Why does it do that? If anybody knows how to use a Sony A6000 as a webcam properly, please tell me. Right, so I hate these USB 3s. Seriously. You have to, they are so stiff. That's the problem, you know. They're so darn stiff. And they're not fun to use. Okay, we've got the SATAs in. That's good. And then we got power. We'll see about tidying up the cable routing after, if we have to. So power, SATA 3. We already did USB 2 and HD audio down here. We got front panel here. These are a little fiddly. I'm not going to be able to show these on camera properly because it's difficult. But on the board, it does actually tell you where everything goes. It looks like it's power LED followed by power switch, and underneath that hard drive LED followed by reset. So power LED is going to be the first. It does even show you, if you look close enough, the plus and minuses, although it's pretty much always plus to the left of the minus. Power switch is always next to power LED. Hard drive LED will always be under power LED, and do you know what? I've done this the wrong way. Reset switch. How you do this is entirely up to you. It is fiddly. If you find it difficult, you are doing nothing wrong. Different cases and different main boards will have different ways of doing it. It is definitely the bit that I think most people stress over. I really wouldn't. It's just, there's nothing to it. It's just plugging things onto things. You can't break them. If you bend them back, be careful. They will almost certainly survive whatever you do to them. Oh, while I'm here, going to go up here and just replug the 8-pin adapter. We're off to the races a little bit here now. So I'm actually going to go whole hog, and I'm going to put I'm not sure if I might have to do something with this fan. I wasn't anticipating this. Okay, I'm just going to explain this because it's complicated. The previous motherboard did not have very many fan headers. This one has quite a few. And so what I did in the previous one was you can use Molexes when you don't have enough fan headers. Molexes, if you don't know, are the old style hard drive power adapters. Basically, I had to wire one of the fans to a Molex because we didn't have enough headers. So what I've done now is around the back I just unclipped one of the tie wraps that I'd used to do that. Okay. I think that's everything in, and it's still nice and tidy. I've got the 8 pins there, and this now. Oh, I see. That was maybe what I should have done then. I didn't realise. Oh, I've got slack now. That's fine. In fact, with that slack. Okay, I'll try and show you what I mean. This cable here, you can't see because of the angle, maybe you can see on the top down cam. Basically the fan cable's coming from here and feeding down and going down into underneath and then along. It didn't have any slack, so the graphics card couldn't sit over the top of it, which is a relatively good way of keeping the cable tidy in. Okay, another slight change of plans I've just noticed is that the top 2 slots here that are freed from before are now not the right ones for the PCI Express. The PCI Express uses the bottom, well, the next 2 down. That top slot is reserved for a probably impossible to use PCIe times 1 or whatever you call them, the ones with the very, very short sockets. Now again, with PCI Express, just make sure it's nicely lined up before you pop it in. There's not a lot to it. Okay. Just use a bigger screwdriver. You know, these are one of the few things when you're screwing in the graphics card that you might just want to apply some actual force, you know, because it is supporting the card and you don't really want the card coming out. So, right, there we go. So we've got both power connectors into the card. Just kind of moment of truth now. I mean, a lot of people joke around on YouTube and they say things like, oh, you know, I never build a computer that works first time and all that. But it's like, well, I don't know. I never build a computer that doesn't work first time. I mean, I probably spend a lot of time building with new components, and I think that helps. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a HDMI because we don't have my general build area is VGA only, so we'll get that in there. We need to get some power. Here's a tip: when you're doing power, turn the power supply off. Less chance of tripping your breakers when you plug it in. I'm going to grab a wireless keyboard and mouse, and I'm going to pop it in the front. I'm not popping it in the front because I'm lazy. I'm popping it in the front because it's always quite handy to know if your front USBs are working, because you have disturbed them. Then flip the power on, fire her up, and see what we got. Look at all that dust flying around, that's crazy. I've got to go to my main monitor and turn on picture by picture, which will absolutely no doubt break everything. On the streaming side it shouldn't, but we'll see. And there is a slight caveat here in that before coming to me, he did say that he did say that he had a graphics issue and he wasn't able to get any output to his monitor. Which isn't great, especially as this Radeon does not have built-in graphics. So anyway, I'm going to have to investigate that now, because we haven't got a display out. But I've basically shown you the process with the motherboard there. The troubleshooting of this particular problem is way beyond the scope of a video I want to do. That's how you change your motherboard. The system, it's posting now anyway. That's weird. Let me reset and check that. Okay, and on. Yeah, so that's how you change your motherboard. It's pretty straightforward. Undo the screws, pull out the plugs, put another one in, do it all up. Happy days. Anyway, I hope that you found that useful, and as always, like, subscribe, etc. And I'll see you for the next video. Okay, just so I didn't leave the video hanging there, I have hooked up a monitor rather than using it through the split panel on my main screen, and I just want to point out that, aside from a slight fan knock there, that this machine does in fact post after our motherboard swap. There we go, Republic of Gamers, hell of a boot time there, and there we go. So I can't show you anymore because it would be customer data, but there we go, successful motherboard repair swap. If you've got any questions or queries, hit us up in the comments, and like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.